I gotta be honest with you, I started out this video with an enormous script of a comparison between a bunch of different cross-platform web browsers that have syncing capabilities, have clients all across operating systems, both mobile and desktop, and I was gonna try and do a comparison of privacy and security and features and performance and speed, and then I realized, you know what? There's a bunch of these videos on the internet already. So today's video is not going to be one of those videos. Today's video is going to be a bit of an essay, I guess, on the reasoning behind using different web browsers and what kind of features do you prioritize and what web experience suits you the best. So come along for the ride. This should be interesting. Now, usually first and foremost when it comes to web browsers, performance is one of the first things on our minds. There are some standouts in the selection of web browsers that are available out there. Now, throughout this video, I am going to talk about a bunch of different web browsers. Web browsers like Firefox, Brave, Vivaldi, Edge, ungoogled Chromium, and others that are arguably defaults or not defaults on different platforms. Now, here's the thing. Performance in a website is important to us as end users, but is it a priority for you, the person who might have their own website? Well, if it is important, then you need to check out the sponsor of this video, which is Hostinger. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a really quick demonstration of what it looks like to migrate, let's say, a WordPress website that you may have been tinkering around with and get it up and running on a Hostinger premium hosting service. Doesn't matter what web browser you're dealing with, you need to have a great solution when it comes to web hosting, and that's where Hostinger can step in. All right, so let me catch you up to speed with what we've done so far. We've created an account, we've logged in, and we've registered a domain name that you get with the premium shared hosting. Now I'm looking at the dashboard, and I've auto-installed the WordPress backend. I'm going to use WordPress just as a simple example to deploy the site. Now, once you've got WordPress installed, I'm going to jump in, hit manage, and click edit website. That'll log me into WordPress's dashboard, where you will see that we have a handy dandy import tool that you can use to grab your old website from wherever that may be and bring it into WordPress. And ta-da, I've moved my old IG Blogspot website to InfinitelyGalactic.com. And it was that simple. Now, yes, of course, I've played around with theming and all that kind of thing, and it's still not a fully fleshed out website, but if you just need to get a project running on fast, reliable hosting as quickly as possible, Hostinger is a great option for you. Definitely go and check out the coupon code hostinger.com/ingalactic. That's INGALACTIC. And you'll get a bunch of money off years of premium shared hosting. Seriously, go and check out the features and the speed that you get for their premium shared hosting with this coupon code, because I dare you to find a better feature set and better speed at the same value proposition. The standouts for me personally are unlimited bandwidth, like truly unlimited bandwidth, and managed WordPress. So I don't have to keep maintaining that WordPress install. It's going to look after itself. If you've got an online project you need to get off the ground and have a fast, reliable website, just remember your hosting is half of the problem when it comes to the speed of your web browsing experience and how other people interact with your stuff online. So go and check it out, hostinger.com/ingalactic. By signing up with that coupon code, you get a sweet as discount, and it also helps out the channel. Don't forget, fast websites need fast hosting. So performance does actually involve a lot of different elements. First of all, the web rendering engine. Now, the web rendering engine on most web browsers out there nowadays is basically the one that Google Chrome uses. Now, we could go back and do a whole history lesson about where it came from and where it's going, but essentially most web browsers nowadays, Vivaldi, Brave, ungoogled Chromium, Chrome, and Edge all use the same WebKit-oriented web browser engine, which is essentially the development of that. A lot of it comes from Google. Now, here's my thoughts on this. It is concerning when one particular company whose best interest is in advertisement controls the main web engine that powers most of the web browsers out there. That's why Firefox gets a shout out here, because Firefox is one of the last remaining browsers that has its own web engine that is not controlled or owned by Google. Now, Firefox, I will admit, came into some hot water in January of this year for shenanigans going on over in the US and the Mozilla Foundation's stance on those very politicized issues. For me personally, it doesn't affect the way that I see what this browser is doing. There are questions and there is research that you, the user, should do in regards to what telemetry or what other features that this browser offers and whether or not you agree to have those running in the background. I will say this, it is a lot more privacy respecting than the default browser that Google Chrome pushes you towards, or that runs default on a lot of mainstream operating systems. Now, the other things that Firefox does have going for it is the fact that they have a fantastic add-on extension community. They have a very flexible user experience that you can tailor to your needs. And the performance is, well, put it this way. If you want proper numbers and figures and a robust discussion about comparisons between these, both from a philosophical and technical standpoint, then go and watch this video by Nick over at the Linux Experiment, and also by Switch to Linux. They have a great, up-to-date, relatively speaking, comparison of some of these web browsers and ones that you should be looking out for. But for me personally, the independent web engine that Firefox brings to the table is motivation for me to keep using that alternative, so that one web engine that is an alternative to Google stays alive. Now, if you're willing to get on board with having a web engine that's common across all of these, the options do open up considerably. The most feature-rich, feature-packed web browser that you can find, in my opinion anyway, is Vivaldi. Vivaldi has a fantastic feature set that feels enormously productive. There are a bunch of different ways that Vivaldi, I think, trumps a lot of what most browsers offer you. Performance is definitely there. Built-in ad blocking and some level of security and privacy tracking is there. It's not turned on by default, but it is good to see that the options are there built into the settings that you can come in here and lock the browser down fairly well. Now, for open source purists out there, those that like to have the code openly licensed and available for inspection and all that kind of thing, some of this browser is open source and some of it is proprietary, specifically a lot of the UI elements. But the feature set that Vivaldi gives you, things like tab window tiling out of the box, things like being able to stack your tabs in various configurations, having a very flexible canvas of tools that you can use, things like out of the box note taking, screen capturing, all of that kind of thing. Custom keyboard shortcuts are amazing, and honestly, there are a bunch of other great features that Vivaldi offer. Now, the other thing that does need to hold up in order for this browser to be recommended in the first place is that it does have cross-platform sync. So you can go and find this browser on other devices as well. So if you're in the mood for lots of features and using the web in the most productive way possible without having to install a bunch of other apps and settings in order to do it, then this would be a great fit for you. Now, coming up with another recommendation is Brave. Many people have heard of Brave, and most of the buzz that Brave seems to generate is through their cryptocurrency form of standing in for ad revenue. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about how this works, but basically, instead of having ads that are across the internet, Brave and the company that develops it realizes that people do have to get paid for the work that they do. So the idea is, well, if more people use Brave, then people that view websites that contain ads can just exchange cryptocurrency instead of getting paid for ads that track you around the internet. Now, what this means for the end user is that Brave by default has a pretty fast loading time, and it claims that it's one of the fastest web browsers out there. Now, in my personal opinion, all of these browsers feel pretty fast to me, but Brave does seem quicker than some. You get some really transparent information about what kind of trackers are being blocked, and it is very quick and easy to get set up using Brave Rewards. However, it is worth mentioning that Brave might not have the most transparent track record when it comes to being upfront with its user base about what its business model is. At the end of the day, you've got to remember that web browsers are a tool, one of the most popular tools on planet Earth today. People use web browsers every single day, and somebody has got to pay for the development of those web browsers. So the monetization models that different companies have at play here are interesting. And Brave came out saying that they were going to have one monetization model and then launched a browser that kind of contradicted that in some ways. Now, if that doesn't bother you, it doesn't really bother me, then go ahead. Brave is a fantastic user experience. It's very clean, minimalistic. It's got a very modern feel to it. And the compatibility with other Chrome extensions and being able to migrate all of your stuff over and cross-platform sync are all here. This is a very full-featured browser compared to what it was when it first came out well over 5 or 6 years ago. Now that does leave us with one of the newer contenders in the cross-platform space, and that is Microsoft Edge. Now to me, Microsoft Edge is actually a decent product. It's actually a decent web browser. So having it default on Windows systems is not the worst thing ever. However, the way that Microsoft Edge is configured out of the box is very busy, full of ads, full of monetization for Microsoft, which is a company that really doesn't need any extra money to develop a great web browser. And so it does take some work to get this thing working how you want it. One thing that is encouraging to see for a mainline browser, and Edge likes tooting its horn around this, is the fact that it does have out of the box fairly privacy respecting settings enabled. You can lock it down even further, which is great to see that they have really quick, accessible, visible settings to do this. But at the same time, it is a web browser that is made by a company whose best interest is to track your web habits to some degree. So how much you believe what the browser presents to you in terms of its privacy features is entirely up to you. Now, it also is worth mentioning Chromium as the less googly version of Chrome, and it is arguably the open source version of Chrome. However, there still is a lot of Google Web Services tied in with the default Chromium. So if you are looking for just a pure, ungoogled Chrome alternative, then have a look for ungoogled Chromium. Basically, it is a very simple build of Chromium that has removed all of the dependencies on Google Web Services. So any telemetry or any tracking like that kind of stuff is all stripped out, giving you a very clean build of Chromium. Let me break it down like this. If you value the independence of the internet and having an alternative web rendering engine, then my pick is Firefox. If you value features and productivity, my pick is Vivaldi. If you value sheer performance, speed, and privacy, then Brave is an excellent bet. If you value compatibility, ease of access, and some great accessibility features, then the Microsoft Edge browser is a worthy opponent. Chrome is in my opinion, the lazy market leader at the moment. So it's worth your time to go and find a better browser. That's all from me. See you in the next one.